But anyway, today I'd like to introduce to you our guest speaker for our Love Life Sunday, who is Mr. Clarence Henderson, originally from Greensboro, now lives in High Point, North Carolina. But in 1960, on the second day of the Greensboro sit-in, Joseph A. McNeil and Franklin E. McCain were joined by William Smith and Clarence Henderson at the Woolworth lunch counter in Greensboro, North Carolina. Clarence Henderson was in the forefront of the civil rights battle as he bravely stepped up to participate in the sit-in at the Woolworth's diner. We just sang Imago Dei. We're created in the image of God. Why do all people have worth? Because we're created in the image of God. We fundamentally have worth, no matter our ethnicity, no matter our language, no matter our nation of origin. We have worth because we're created in God's image. And so Clarence stood up for civil rights. Today, Mr. Henderson is a champion for freedom and conservative values. His message will inspire you and teach you how to change the narrative in this nation from liberty for a few to liberty for all. In 2000, Mr. Henderson was the recipient of the 40th Anniversary Sit-In Participant Award, and in 2013, he was appointed by Governor Pat McCrory to the chairman's seat on the North Carolina Martin Luther King Jr. Commission. In addition, Governor McCrory conferred in 2016 the Order of the Longleaf Pine Award to Clarence with the rank of Ambassador Extraordinary. Mr. Henderson was appointed president of the Frederick Douglass Foundation for the state of North Carolina in May of 2017 and presided in that post until September 30th of 2023. He also served on the advisory board of Black Voices for Trump for 2019 through 2020. I thought y'all might cheer on that one. I wasn't sure. We are in Randolph County, by the way. Mr. Henderson's energetic involvement in his church as head elder, new members coordinator, Sunday school teacher, and finance committee member, and his life's journey as a teacher, college administrator, entrepreneur, and motivational speaker has given him a unique perspective on what confronts society today. While his life is chronicled with episodes of civil unrest in which he found himself thrust in the midst, he did his part to bring awareness and change in a peaceful manner. Clarence now champions a new cause for a better America by challenging, motivating, and inspiring others to be aware and responsible for the world that surrounds them. So this morning, would you give a big Ashboro and big Rushwood welcome to Mr. Clarence Henderson as he comes to speak to us today. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. God bless you. God bless you. By the way, before I forget to say it, as you're on the way out, he will have his book available for you today. And also, we will be taking up as part of our offering a love offering for him. So if you want to donate to that love offering, just write Clarence Henderson or let us know exactly what that is for, and you can drop that in the giving box as well. Mr. Henderson, bring us the word today.
Thank you so much, Pastor. I'd like to say good morning to the church. One of the questions I have as I begin, according to the response I get when I come up here, is, can these dry bones live? For God so loved the world, he gave his only begotten Son, that whosoever believes into him shall not perish but have everlasting life. You know, it's been a long journey for me. It's not one that I chose. I believe in divine intervention. You see, what happened to me when I came out of my mother's womb, my dad named me because of his best friend. At this particular point in time, my dad was a sharecropper. And obviously that meant he sharecropped for a white guy. And they became the best of friends. And so he named me after that guy. And it helped set the tone for me to help bridge the gap between the races. And every time I've tried to go away from it, I've been like Jonah the fish. I've been drawn back into it. I truly believe that every person born into this world, into this earth, is here for a specific purpose. And for the church, I will say this. Do not allow the persecution to cause you to lose your purpose. We have been called out to be the conscience, not just for America, but for the world. And everybody is coming out of the closet except Christians. We've got to change that. We are the hope for America and for the world. Although it's not going to get fixed until Jesus comes, we, as a remnant, have been called out. We have been blessed to live in the greatest country in the world. We could have been born any place else except here. We have been born here with the greatest opportunity there is, freedom of religion. We have the right to worship as we so choose. Our founding fathers were intervened by God to present a message. Father, oh, that you would bless us indeed and enlarge our territory, that your hand would be with us and keep us from evil and may not cause pain. And so, Father God, this morning I pray that when we leave here, we will leave here better than we came. We will be more united than we have ever been before. You see, the only way that America will be destroyed is from within. We cannot allow that to happen. God has placed us here for a specific purpose as far as the country is concerned. We're still talking about things that really do not exist as they used to. We keep hearing people talk about how racist this country is. If America's so racist, why are people dying to come here and nobody's dying to leave? So do not let somebody fool you into thinking that. That is a strategy by some powers that be that want to change America. And why is America here? America is an idea in the minds of men. What does that mean? It means that we, the people, by our votes, decide what kind of country we're going to live in. And so in the preamble to the Declaration of Independence, it says, and I want you to listen very carefully to me, what God said in reference to that. In the Declaration of Independence, he says, we hold these truths. The second sentence says, we hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, that they have been endowed by their Creator with certain inalienable rights, and among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. And governments are instituted among men, deriving their just powers from the consent of the governed and not the government. I got news for you, folks. The government works for us, we don't work for them. We have got to learn how to vet our people that are elected officials are running for office, to find out why they are running and what they intend to do. The Constitution begins with we the people of the United States, which means that we are the ones to decide. And I ask you now, where are your footsteps? Are your footsteps defending the freedom of this country? Or are they moving back toward King George III? We've got to change our mentality. We've got to see things differently. You see, as I said before, it is not my choice to be here. I was called out, and I've had the courage to answer the call. And I can't tell you the number of things I've been through because of the decision I made that I would express my beliefs as far as what America is all about. You see, there were 5 of us came here from a little place called Townville, South Carolina, and I'm the only one left out of my immediate family. And so I carry that torch of liberty from them to the coming generations so we can continue to defend this great country called America. And I know how precious life is. And I was glad to hear your pastor talking about the event, Love Life, in Greensboro. I happen to have participated in one of those down at that very center, pregnancy center down there, Planned Parenthood in Charlotte, North Carolina. And it was amazing to me how hard it was for us to get pastors to come out and participate. There's a great responsibility we have as Christians. We must live up to the purpose that God set before us. And so, growing up in Greensboro, North Carolina, I grew up in the era of time known as Jim Crow, which meant separate but equal. And my question always has been, if we are equal, why do we need to be separate? Doesn't make any sense. You see, here's something that I have determined. God did not make a white man or a black man. Through Adam and Eve, he made a genetic possibility for black hair, brown hair, whatever color hair, eyes, and all of that. And Satan has used racism as a means to divide this country. We've got to learn that that cannot continue to happen. You see, God said, my people have perished from the lack of knowledge. We have allowed CRT, critical race theory, social justice, all these things to come into the school system, and not only there, but to come into the church itself. We cannot allow that. We're concerned about critical race theory, and tomorrow morning little Johnny still can't read. What kind of America will that be? And so we live in this time whereby we're being indoctrinated rather than educated. We've got to go back to classical education and teach people that we're all alike. And so when I got involved in the civil rights movement, there was a friend of mine by the name of Ezel Blair, and we started out in the first grade together. And he lived on campus. I could not afford to live on campus. I lived off campus. That's the reason why that I was not there on the first day. But when he came to Bluefield Library and told me what had happened on February 2nd, 1960, some 63 years ago, I decided to participate. Now, why did I decide to participate? Because of the subhuman way that I was treated when I was a child growing up. You see, I was bused all my life. Even when we moved into an area that was not in the black community, I was still bused out of that area back out into school where I originally started out. Used to pass by all these schools, but here's what happened by riding that bus. I got a chance to see places that I had not seen before. And I used to go to F.W. Woolworth's in downtown Greensboro with my mother when I was a little kid growing up. And there were two places that were distinctly different from any place else in Woolworths. One was downstairs and one was upstairs. Downstairs they had two bathrooms, one saying color and one saying white. They had two water fountains, one saying color and one saying white. And I used to look at the water coming out of those fountains and wonder what the difference was, because it looked just alike. The difference simply was a Jim Crow sign that they had put above the water. And when we went upstairs, they had a lunch counter. And people like myself could order food to go, but we could not sit down and eat. Now keep in mind, the food was being prepared by black folks, but black folks could not sit at the counter and eat. So for me, Jim Crow was just one step above slavery. But here's the point. We don't live in slavery times now, not Jim Crow. I challenge anyone to show me a law that says that we still live in Jim Crow. We've got to stop allowing people to take us back to that time. We've got to remember that. And I'm going to go back again to our babies. In 1960, there were 20 million blacks in America. Since that time, there have been 20 million black babies aborted. Folks, we're killing ourselves. We're doing the same thing that the Israelites did. We cannot continue to do that. We came here for a certain purpose. How dare we change that purpose? And so on this particular day, when I walked in the F.W. Woolworths, things were different. Why were they different? Because I did not know how I was going to come out. So I truly believe in the sanctity of life. I did not know whether I was going to come out in a vertical position, in handcuffs, going to jail, or a prone position, going to the hospital, or even perhaps the morgue. It changed my entire outlook on life. I had no idea that what we were doing on those days, by the way, it took 176 days to integrate Woolworth's lunch counter, that it was going to wind up being what it was. And so there's a courage required if we are going to defend this country. That's why I have the book, Forgotten Courage. The question is, where is the courage that America had in its founding? When those 56 men signed the Declaration of Independence, knowing they were signing their death warrants if they were caught. How many of us have that kind of courage today? So when I walked into that Woolworths, sat down at the lunch counter, the person behind the counter treated us like we were invisible, like they didn't even see us. And so one of the caveats that I had was that I came from a family that was broke. They weren't poor, they was broke. Big difference. And so Ezel said to me, if they serve us, I will pay for your meal. Well, Ezel still owes me a meal today. I never ate at that lunch counter. But on July, I think it was 26, 1960, they had 3 blacks that worked there at Woolworths behind the lunch counter. They were the people that ate at that lunch counter. We sat there for 176 days, sitting down to stand up for freedom. 176 days of people crying out, freedom over me. And before I be a slave, I'd be buried in my grave and go home to my Lord and be free. This is a country that was founded for freedom. How dare we give it up? We have still got to challenge what's happening in America today. We have a leadership void. That's why this country is in the position it is in today. We have so many people that sit in the halls of Congress that do not know what their job description is, which is the Constitution. I would love to go to D.C., the swamp, and give them a test on their job description. Most of them would fail. In the private sector, they'd be fired. So we have a leaderless country for the most part. We have an obligation to change that. We as citizens are responsible for what kind of country we live in. And so after those 176 days, and we changed the course of history, Then God took me on the backside of the mountain for 40 years to get me ready for the next phase of my life. You see, it was 40 years before I was recognized for participating. But it didn't bother me because I didn't sit there for that. I sit there because it's the right thing to do. So they took me on the backside of the mountain, prepared me, and here's a guy who was the only member of his family that went to college. But yet, because I took advantage of those things, or that, I was in business for myself for almost 30 years doing mortgages, investments, and things like that. And so I want you to understand it's not where you come from. It's where you're going. It's not what's behind you, in front of you. It's what's in you. How dare we allow this life to pass us by and we don't show any footsteps as to where we have been? We do not leave a legacy for our posterity, for our children coming behind us. We owe it to our children to defend their rights. And when I hear people talking about school choice, it's not school choice, it's parents' choice. And we got to live up to that. What will your kids, your grandkids, your great-grandkids say about you during this time? What did you do to defend America? As I said, I'm like Jonah the fish. After the civil rights movement that I participated in, I left Greensboro and said I'm never coming back again. But God had a plan for me. Never say never. I'm in New York City, where I always wanted to go. Living a great life, or so I thought. One day I get this call from my mother. And she tells me, I've got a letter here for you. I said, what does it say? She says, it says, Uncle Sam needs you. He wants you. I said, no problem. He doesn't know where I live. Oh, but he had a surprise for me. About 6 weeks later, I got that same letter or a copy thereof. Went down to White House Street in Brooklyn. There were two other guys there that were from Greensboro, where I was from. I was the only one they took. So I'm living in New York, and they put me on a twin-engine plane. The first time I ever flown in my life. They didn't ask me whether I wanted to go by car or by train or what. Took me from New York City to Fort Jackson, South Carolina. You talking about a culture shock. Well, when I gotten used to that, then all of a sudden they said, we got someplace else we want to send you. They sent me to Fort Gordon, Georgia, a little further south. Keep in mind, I'm not one ever coming back to the South now again. Well, when I finally got used to that, they sent me to Fort Rucker, Alabama, where George C. Wallace was the governor down there. Man, you can talk about some changes. So it changed for me defending my rights to being on standby while I was at Fort Rucker, Alabama, where Dr. King and those were marching, that I may have to go down there and be on the other side. Thank goodness I didn't have to go. But see, what has prepared me to understand what's going on in this country is that we have to be careful to who we listen to. We have to recognize that America is parallel to what happened with the Israelites. Where the Israelites, when Moses went to Pharaoh and said, God said, let my people go, what did Pharaoh do? He ignored him. When the people came here to America and told King George III they wanted to have their own rights, he ignored them And as a result, we declared ourselves independent. And just like the Israelites failed, we have failed here also. We came up with slavery. And Abraham Lincoln ran for senator in Illinois. And here's what he ran on. He said, a house divided cannot stand. And he lost the race. His friends told him, if you run on that, then you are going to lose. And he did. But when the house fell, guess what happened? Abraham Lincoln became the president of the United States. And from there came the 13th Amendment, where blacks were recognized as citizens. You see, the Bible gives us rights, not the Constitution. The Constitution recognizes our rights. And so, it's God says, man says. Whose report do you believe? I stand on the belief of what thus saith the Lord. He has guided me throughout all of my life. As I travel across America, trying to unite this country, I'm praying going and praying coming. And the only thing that I take responsibility for is the courage I have. When we came to Greensboro, and you guys in here will understand this, when you have a new kid in the block, what happens? That kid is always tested. And so I had to defend myself physically every day going to school and coming back. Well, I have lost that edge that I had then, but spiritually it has been replaced spiritually. And so I stand before you today, and here's what I'll let you know. As my lovely wife sitting down there. If we are in a public square, and my wife has to go to the bathroom, and somebody that looks like me goes in there behind her, I'm going in there, he's got to come out of there. He's not going to be in there. And if my kids were growing up today, and they went to the library and the drag queen was in there, it wouldn't happen but one time. Where is our courage? Where is our reasoning for fighting for what we believe in? You see, this journey started for me, excuse me, I had this allergy, and I was all of 18 years of age. And so the only difference between me then and now, look just as good looking as I did then, is my hair grows on the inside now instead on the outside. And I've always wanted to be in the church and share with the church what their responsibility is. And now God has given me the opportunity for us to say, for me to say to you that we are made in the image of God. My question is, do you know what you look like when you look at yourself? We're so busy looking on the outside that we can't see on the inside. Well, we have God Almighty on the inside of us. We have this dunamis power that we're not using. You see, there's no way that I could have done what I did in my life without God leading the way. Because every time I've turned to go my way, it's gone the wrong way. But when I've listened to God, He has guided me through it all. And He has shown me what my responsibility is. And I live up to that responsibility. Has it given me, has it bothered me? Yes. Excuse me. But what happens is that I know what my purpose is. And I'm saying to you today, every one of you in here, there's a certain fabric that's been run throughout your life the whole time you've been here. That's your purpose. Do you have the courage to stand up for that purpose? You see, far too many people have cut their teeth on the comfort of security, and far too few have cut their teeth on the true grit of courage that is required for freedom's sake. You see, freedom is not free. There's a price that must be paid. It must be paid in full, and it must be paid up front. How dare we sit back in the comfort of our homes and allow all these things to happen to us? Why are we not out in the highways and byways of life challenging this anti-Christian situation that's going on in America right now? They have caused a lot of Christians to have fear in their heart. And you know, fear and faith don't mix. I walk by faith and not by sight. I am an overcome by the blood of the Lamb, the word of my testimony. I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. That is what governs me. That's what drives me. And I let people know that the most important thing that they keep talking about over and over again is by design. Racism is not the most important thing. If America loses its economy, loses the dollar, where will we be? We need to be concerned about the government taking all of our money. I got news for you. There are those in our government that intend to take every one of us back into slavery. But it will be a different kind of slavery. It will be economic slavery, where we work for them and they don't work for us. Look at the price of gas. Look at the price when you go to the grocery store. Look at how many empty shelves there are. Look at how many businesses closing down. It's not because America is not a great economic country. It is because they have designed it to be so. It is ridiculous that we have all these resources in this country, but we're buying oil from our enemy. It makes no sense. And so I've told the president on down what I think about what's going on in this country. I have no qualms about it. I received threats from people from overseas, all over, but it doesn't bother me. You see, I have run no race. I have kept the faith. But I have miles to go and promises to keep. There are two poems that resonate in my mind. One of them is, and I'll give you a part of it, let us not be like life's walking shadow, a poor player who walks and struts his life upon the stage and then is heard no more. Lives of great men remind us that we can make our lives sublime, and a parting leave behind us footprints in the sands of time. My question to you is, where are your footprints? And I'll go back as I prepare to close and talk with you about love. You see, they are leading us into believing that love is what it isn't. We keep hearing people talking about love, and it's all about agape love, brotherly love, agape love. It's not about the erotic love. How dare we allow our kids to be raised up in the environment that they're being raised up? Where is the outrage as far as this country is concerned? We cannot continue to allow us. You see, God gave us our children for us to give our children back to Him. Are we doing that? Are we preparing the way? Are we telling them the story of what the Bible says? You see, this book called the Bible is not a library for us to pick and choose. God said it, and that settles it. You may not like it, but that's what He said. But we have people in this country trying to force us to do what God doesn't force us to do. He just tells us what the results will be if we do not do what thus saith the Lord. I got news for you. Heaven is real, but hell is real also. And the question is, which direction are we going to be going? It is our choice. We choose to do that. Now, I have 9 different projects I'm working on right now. At 82 years of age, I don't have time to slow down because there's so much to do. When I stand before God, I want to hear, well done, thou good and faithful servant. You've been faithful over a few things, I'll make you ruler over many. And so, as we prepare for tomorrow, I want you to remember something. In Ephesians, it talks about putting on the whole armor of God. Now, God has given us the armor. Are we putting it on every day? You see, we are renewed every morning. We have one offensive weapon, and that is the Word of God. When the constant word in the Bible becomes the instant word, that word is a sword, as a shield that kills the enemy. God is no respecter of person. He does not respect my words nor your words. It's only his words. It is written, so shall my word be that goeth forth out of my mouth. It shall not return to me void, but it shall accomplish that which I please, and it shall prosper unto that which I sent it. And he says in his Bible, he also says that man does not live by bread alone, but by every word that comes forth from the mouth of God. And so we have to grab a hold and apprehend God the same way he has apprehended us, and make people aware of what we stand for. And when that bell is called for the meeting at Planned Parenthood on that particular day, where will you be? I hope you're not sitting in the comfort of your house watching TV. I hope that you're out in the highways and byways of life just like Jesus was, sharing with people the gospel of what we're supposed to do, because we're here to help build God's kingdom, not our kingdom. I'm not here for what Clarence Henderson wants to do. I'm here for what God has called me to do. And I try to live that out every day, because it is so important that this country called America stand for what we believe in, and not what people are telling us that we're supposed to believe in. Just think about it right now. We have people going around apologizing for America. American exceptionalism is the greatest thing we have going for us, that we try to live up to a standard that God has set forth for us. And for so long as we abide in the shadow of the Almighty, we will be blessed and highly favored. As I continue throughout my life, I hope that something I've said to you will resonate to you. And the only thing I ask you to do is this, is to pass the torch of liberty to the coming generation. Because we owe it to our kids, because they're hearing the wrong thing. And some of us adults are hearing the wrong thing. We're not listening. And if you want to know really what's happening, I urge each one of you to read the story of the Roman Empire. It parallels where America is today. And we're so close to being there. But we have a chance to change. So I would hope that you would read my book, but first you got to buy it, though. When you see the book, this is me right here on the right-hand side right here, sitting at that lunch counter, having faced down the KKK, bomb threat, but we still sat there. You see in the movie Braveheart, he says something that it resonates with me today. He says, every man dies, but not every man lives. We were not put here just to exist. We were put here to make a difference. So that gap between your date of birth and your date of death, what will it say about you? You know, when I look in the Bible, I see the oldest man that ever lived was Methuselah, but I don't see anything it did. It's not how long you live, it's what did you do? What kind of difference did you make? It is our choice And how dare we follow those people to tell us that we should get rid of the police? How crazy is that? The police are what we need. It's law and order. I serve on a board, one of the commissions. I am the chairman for that commission with Chief Judge Newby. And we're trying to get the people in this country to see, in North Carolina to see, that we as private citizens have a responsibility when it comes to the legal system, just like the judges and the lawyers do. We have to learn together, as Dr. King said, unless we learn to live together as brothers, we'll perish together as fools. And so it is our country to win, our country to lose. We are at a major crossroad. And just as it was said by your pastor, the local elections are the ones that are most important. The government said, Washington, D.C. says one thing, but how do they carry those laws out? They carry them out because they bring it all the way down to your local elections and have them carried out. So we need to understand how this thing works. And so I'll leave you with this final thing. On February 1st, 1960, there were 4 students that walked in the F.W. Woolworths. When a shot was fired, it was heard around the world. Why did those 4 Moses part the Red Sea of segregation? Why did those 4 Hebrews cross the color line and step over into the fiery furnace of racism? Why did those 4 Daniels go into the lion's den of oppression? Why? I'll tell you why. To tell old Jim Crow to let my people go. And we're still doing that today. That we as a people are here so we can be free to do what we want to do, as long as we self-govern ourselves according to what the law says. And when the law needs to be changed, there is a way to do that. We participated in a peaceful movement. 1920 was not that. That was riots, and riots must be stopped. And not only do black lives matter, but all lives matter. And so I want you not to be ashamed and allow people to make you be ashamed, because see, what they're doing with critical race theory is they're teaching the black kids do the same thing to the white kids that was done to me when I was growing up. Judge them by the color of their skin rather than the content of their character. How can you judge a person about racism and they're living this modern time today? All you can do is judge them on what they're doing today. I hope that I've said something to you that resonates with you, that causes you to have a paradigm shift, to understand this great country called America. And I hope you will stop by the table back there and buy one of my books, and I'll sign that person, sign them for you. I thank you for the time that I've had to be with you today. Thank you, Pastor.